Hello everyone, this is Mr. Crozier, and I'm going to show you some more examples from lesson 5.1. There's 4 different things we want to do today. It kind of just mirrors what we did yesterday, but with a few small changes right here. Alright, part 1, we want to graph with a graphing utility, which means a graphing calculator or Desmos.com. If you are taking calculus next year, you're going to want to get one of these graphing calculators, but for right now you can use Desmos.com if you don't have one. And here's a function. It's exponential. It's 3 with this crazy exponent up here. It's a negative x squared minus 2, and I need to graph that. So I type it in here, or I type it in Desmos, and I hit the graph button. And what you're going to want to do is draw this out. They already did the graph for you. So I have my axis right here. And what you'll notice is I counted it to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, negative 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4 here. 1, 2, 3, 4 there. You can count it however you want to. It doesn't have to be to 4s, but just get something that shows the graph. And what you see is here, there's this line at the bottom. It's called an asymptote. This line at the bottom. And it's at negative 2, then it goes up. There's this little bump right here in the middle, so the graph goes along this line, and it bumps up and it bumps back down like that. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but you just want to kind of get the general form, and it's right there. It's that green line. If you have a colored pencil or something, it looks really nice, but there's the graph that matches that. When it says graph with a utility, use a calculator. Use Desmos, draw a picture, draw your scale. You don't have to make a chart. Alright, second thing we want to do is we're going to evaluate functions with the number e. This is a number here, just like the number pi is about 3.14. A number that we're going to work with a lot is the number e. We'll talk about where it comes from, but for right now, just know that e is about 2.72. So if we had to do this equation, if we had to find the function's value when x is 3, we plug in 3 here, and we go 2 times 2.72 raised to the third power plus 1. And I can do that all in one step on my calculator. I can just put in 2 times 2.72 raised to the third power plus 1, and that'll work. I get about 41. F of 3 is about 41.25. A lot of calculators have an E button on there. So there's an E button right there. So if your calculator does this, you could go 2e raised to the third power plus 1, and you'll get an even closer value because it won't use an approximation. It'll use a longer approximation for e. But if you have an e button, use it. If you can't find an e button, use 2.72. Alright, and now part C, we want to be able to graph with base e. Well, it's the same thing. We have this equation right here, and we're going to make this table. And I'm just going to do 2.72 and do the exact same thing we did yesterday. 2.72 raised to the 0 power plus 1. Outputs 2. Now I'm going to do 2.72 raised to the first power plus 1. Outputs 3.72. And you're going to be making a graph, and you'll have decimals, so you're just going to estimate where they go. Second power plus 1. 8.4. It'll be enough to just do one decimal to graph them. And now let's go ahead and do 2.72. raised to the negative 1 power plus 1. 1.4. And same thing, 2.72 raised to the negative 2 power plus, plus 1, and it's 1.3. Alright, let me go ahead and graph this just to show you what it looks like. If I clear this out and I type in y equals e, I have an e button on my calculator. Or I can just do 2.72 raised to the x power plus 1. The window is here, and right here's what your graph is going to look like. It's going to go up really fast once it hits this axis. So goes even and then goes up really fast right there. Again, just use decimals, use this number exactly the same. All right, you can also solve equations. Solving equations using the one-to-one property. Bases are the same. Drop down the exponents, and you have x plus 5. Subtract this over, and we have x. Add this over, we have 8. And it is 8 right there. You will run into some problems where you have quadratic up here. Say, for example, I have x squared equals e to the x plus 3. Well, you can drop those down and you could have x squared and x plus 3. And now you have this kind of equation to solve. You can solve that by factoring. You can solve that with the quadratic formula, which is opposite of b, all of that formula. Or factoring is probably the easiest. Check the odd ones. They give a good example of this on there. Alright, so for today's homework, you have these 4 types of problems.